can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Come to the table, cup runneth over. Come drink your fill and be well. Oh, I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Oh, I can hear you call my name. You come to the valley, come lay your head down, come rest your feet by the river of life, and come to the pasture, rest by the fire, rest as the wind blows over the plain. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Come to the pasture, lie by the river. Come drink your fill and be well. Come to the table, cup runneth over. Come drink your fill and be well.
Welcome. Take this moment for yourself. Relax and get comfortable in your chair. As you do that, take a few deep breaths. As you take deep breaths, become aware that you are letting go of any worries, thoughts, or anything that is on your mind. For just a few moments, let go of all your thoughts. Deeply engage with your awareness. Feel your own presence in your heart now. Make a choice and say this to yourself: I am present. I am present. Becoming aware of yourself is the deepest gift that you can give to yourself. Your presence is divine. Your presence is healing. Your presence is to be worshipped. I am present. Feel this presence now from your heart. As it expands, allow it to bring more energy and attention towards your whole body. Allow this to expand even more. Allow this awareness to cover the entire room. Let it expand even more. Let it cover your whole house, your city, your country, and the entire earth. I am present. Let this resonate all over the expansion of your awareness. Now, take a few deep breaths and bring your attention back to your heart, to the center of your being. As you ground this healing meditation, bring your attention back to yourself in this room. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Namaste.
Hello, welcome to the Sunday service. We're Adam and Brianne, twin flames in harmonious union, and we'll provide your card reading for this week.
Yeah, so this week we pulled from the Chakra Insight Oracle.
By Karen Sangster.
Mm-hmm.
I think the artwork is by Amy Edwards. Yep.
Doesn't say on here, but Amy Edwards.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, on the side.
On the side.
Yeah, these are beautiful cards.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first card that jumped out, we have Dreams. And it says messages, signs, symbols, guidance. This is right up my alley. I love dreams. So yeah, what I feel this card is communicating is that our dreams are an important part of our spiritual journey. Oftentimes our dreams are communicating messages, meanings, they're providing insights. And also like the third eye chakra, getting clear on your dreams and your desires. And so, yeah, like if you're like me and you love dreams, making sure that when you wake up in the morning or even in the middle of the night, journal down, even if it seems significant, journal down your dream and see, what is this showing me? Did it bring up any feelings? Are there any emotions connected to it? And know that spirit, God, is always showing you something. There's a message for you.
Yeah, and like if something comes up from the dream, do the mirror exercise on it, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm noticing the eagle on there. It's kind of like what you said as well, getting like a view from above. What do you call that?
Bird's eye view.
Yeah. So and like getting clear on your desires, right? Mm-hmm. And it's important. And it reminds me of card from a deck by Doreen Virtue, Daydream. It says kind of like daydream what you want, right? Because that imagination is energy. Mm-hmm. So that's important too.
It is.
So focus on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So the second card that come out was number 14, money, finances, power, generosity, and abundance.
Yeah. So the first thing that stood out here is like we're talking about this. How would you feel about having lots of money right now? Well, immediately you might think like, oh yes, I want that money. Give it to me, right? But also like feel yourself in that. I think a few months ago, or I don't know, a while back, I was imagining myself in a Range Rover because that's what I desire for myself. But I was like, had it kind of like sitting, behind the wheel in this car. I was a bit like, oh, something feels a bit uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So I had to like feel into that. Why does this feel uncomfortable? So it's something just to look at. How would you feel with all this money, all this energy, all this love in your life? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice support, but
It
also
is.
it might bring up some things. So it's something to look at. Yeah.
Yeah, money is energy. Energy is love. And so if you have a dream and a desire for, like Adam said, a Range Rover or a beautiful home, and you're not currently experiencing that in your reality, well, it doesn't mean that you're not supposed to have that and that you're not going to have that, but it does mean that you have a block. There's a block in your heart to receiving that. And Jeff and Shaleia talk about this in the classes. Someone that would want a Ferrari, and let's say they somehow were given a Ferrari or they won it or something. Well, imagine the upkeep that is needed on that kind of car. That's a high value car versus like I don't know, like a Ford Focus or something. No, nothing against Ford Focus, right? But the value, the difference in that. So let's say someone with a Ford Focus budget, somehow comes into having a Ferrari. Well, yeah, there's going to be that initial excitement, like, wow, look at what I have here. But then as time goes on and the car needs maintenance, there's things that need to be fixed. It needs to, it needs care, right? You're financially not going to be able to provide for that car, and it's going to feel really uncomfortable for you. And so this is why God guides us in a very compassionate way into manifesting our dreams and desires in a very sustainable increase, and not just dumping it on you all at once, because that would not feel good. So yeah, this card in a nutshell is just looking at your true feelings of how you feel about money. Remembers money is love. So if you're not experiencing a lot of wealth or money, finances in your life, look at where you're not open to receiving a lot of love within yourself and your life.
Yeah.
All right. And the last card we have is number 21, and it's self-esteem, confidence, self-love, self-worth, and pride.
I feel like this goes into the message that we're all embodying right now. I am divine as well.
Yep.
Yeah, because your divine self, is confident, has a high level of self-esteem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's letting go of that negative self-talk. I was doing some inner work this morning, and I was having these voices just like enter my consciousness, and I'm like, nope. Where normally I'd be like, oh no, this thought is me, and I'm like, no, that's not me. And so immediately when I would say no to it, it would just vanish, it would just disappear. And so yeah, only allowing in love, and only allowing loving thoughts in your consciousness, choosing to align your mind with the divine mind, with God's mind, and only letting in what is worthy of you.
Yeah, it also brings up, I see the sunflowers. I always think like sunshine, right? Like positivity and, what's the other word? Gratitude. Yeah, like living in those feelings, you should say. Yeah, that brings about a lot of good things. Yeah, that's what we want to strive for, living in gratitude and in the sunshine.
Yeah, like let go of resistance to receiving your good. Let go of resistance to having your dreams and your desires manifested. And that's really all it is. It's keeping it away from you, is the resistance to having it. So we can all make a choice right now. Just I choose to release resistance to my good, to having complete and total love in my life. All right.
Good.
So that concludes today's Sunday service card reading. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the service, and we'll see you next time.
God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to another Sunday service for Church of Union. We are Paco and Deborah, twin flames in union, and we introduce today's sermon from Granville, What is Holding You Back?
And it's very juicy sermon. We had a lot of insights while we were working our way through it.
And discussion.
And yeah, discussing it. Very lively.
Yes.
But I think we both got very cool insights in regards to the main topic that Granville walks us through, which is mostly about like resistance, know how to identify the resistance that we are having in our healing journey and understand it not only from a logical standpoint, but also be very perceptive when we are having that resistance, when we are finding that little wall that we are not quite pushing through yet. So yeah, I feel like you had a lot of insights. You were saying that you had a lot to share about it, so
yes.
yeah, please go ahead.
I start with my biggest insight of this from the sermon from Granville, What is Holding You Back, is when you realize there is resistance, it's easy to let go of it. It's just your choice. And this choice in truth is very easy to let go of resistance and let go of control, how this unfolds. And as Granville also shares, sometimes it's need a little bit more work and a little bit more effort to get aware of the resistance. And in truth, also this kind of hard work to come to the next resistance, so to say, can be easy. It's not difficult. It's always this choice. And the resistance kind of wants us to believe it's hard. It's so hard to let go of it because we are so used to resist in specific places in our heart. And so we hold on this illusion that it could be hard, but in truth it can be easy.
Yeah, and it's something that he was also sharing through the sermon. Our resistance is sometimes our defense mechanism, like it's a way of our consciousness to kind of keep us protected from something that we may feel it's very harmful. But the truth is, like the teaching always shows us, the best we can do is look there, see why we are being resistant, like what is the belief that it's holding that space where we cannot or feel unwilling to move through, and realize that actually what we are seeing there is not really true. And so, like Paco is saying, when we find that place, it's easy because we can replace it with the truth, and then we can let go of whatever was happening that was preventing us from feeling better. And yeah, I wanted to share something else, but right now it skipped my mind. I know it's gonna come back anyway. So.
And also with resistance, it can feel scary. Sometimes you are afraid of letting go of resistance, as I already mentioned. We are so used to resist in truth, the healing, the love, God's truth, or just resist God's way for us.
Oh, because we are so used to living in certain ways sometimes. And
exactly.
Thank you. You reminded me exactly of what I wanted to share. Because we very recently were watching also the Romance is a Donna workshop, and there's something very interesting about it that ties perfectly. Jeff and Shaleia were sharing how going through the spiritual journey and the twin flame journey, it's a little bit of an identity crisis. And so the psyche, like the human psyche, when it finds these places, of course has to let go of what has been believing to be for a very long time in certain cases. And that's sometimes what we may experience, this resistance, but it's like nothing bad is happening. That's kind of like the illusion, or like what you were saying at the beginning, a little bit like this false identity our ego tries to convince us that it's gonna be bad to let go of this old belief, even though on the other side of letting go is where we actually feel better and we can embrace exactly what we want, which is what we've been talking throughout the history of the sermons, is becoming our divine selves, our true divine selves. So, yeah.
Yeah, and this is exactly what is holding you back sometimes for making a progress or making the next step on your spiritual journey, on your twin flame journey, on your life purpose journey.
Yeah.
This resistance to a new way, this resistance to a new feeling. And we can let go of that and just decide to let go of the resistance and to progress, to choose to progress, and no holding back anymore. It's not necessary in truth.
Yeah, allowing the love
Once
to...
you are aware, I'm just resisting, it's easy to just let go of it.
Yeah, like being able to allow ourselves to expand the same love that we actually called in.
Exactly.
So that's very cool. I love it because Granville was taking us like step by step, even from a very logical standpoint, to understand what is resistance and how does it function. And I feel like the sermon is going to be super helpful, especially for those who are still struggling to find these places within. Like I sometimes do some, but I have my twin flame to point me in that direction. So to really understand what is going on when we are like bumping into these places, and like you were sharing, make it super easy to spot it and say, oh, okay, I can let it go now.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and also this is a progress to learn, to let it be easy. It's like a process.
It's a process, exactly. Especially when we are new to this. Patience and compassion go a very long way. And we are all learning, and as we go deeper, we still hit certain places of resistance, but it becomes easier the more we practice with this teaching.
Exactly. So I think that's a wonderful point you will receive from Granville's sermon. Relax and enjoy. Today's sermon from Granville.
Hello everybody, my name is Granville Campbell. Welcome to our Sunday service today. Let us begin with our 3 opening alms. Please feel free to join out loud or say them in your heart. And now for our opening prayer. I am the only child of God, forever part of Him. I am created by Him in perfection, and there I always remain. My mind is my sanctuary where I keep His holy creation sacred. I will only allow in His voice. I will only accept His word. Today I will hear the word of God. I surrender myself to His teachings through His divine channel. I will honor what He has spoken and accept it as His will. I will be obedient to His word, for this is my salvation. In Christ's name, Om, Amen. Once again, hello everybody, and welcome to today's Church of Union Sunday service. I'm Granville Campbell, and I'm very happy to be your Church of Union minister for today, as I share my sermon with you. And the message that I feel called to share with you today is on overcoming resistance. And in feeling into the concept of resistance, specifically as it relates to our healing journey, a couple of things come up for me. One is that it feels like there's a counterintuitive energy to resistance. 2, it appears to be some type of defense mechanism. And 3, it also feels like it actually takes or requires a large amount of energy. And I say this for the reason that with point 1, the fact that it's counterintuitive, it kind of feels like we resist the very thing that we want. So in the healing space, we want to heal, and resistance is just counterintuitive to that healing process. And then 2, I just feel like sometimes resistance requires us to look deeper than we're prepared to look, or that we feel is safe to look. So there's a defensiveness to it. And then thirdly, just the amount of energy expended on maintaining that resistance, whether we realize it or not, is energy consuming, and it is time consuming, and it probably starts to feel a little bit tedious after a while. But yeah, let's explore these concepts. Let's go into some definitions. So one of the things that kind of stood out for me and that I was guided to do was kind of look at the prevalence of resistance as a concept in healing. And so medically, resistance is defined as opposition to something, or the ability to withstand something. So in certain bacteria, for instance, are resistant to the treatment of antibiotics. And then psychologically, resistance is referred to or defined as any action in opposition to, defying, or withstanding something or someone. And in psychotherapy and analysis, it could happen as an obstruction through the client's words or behavior, or the therapist's methods of your resistance to the therapist's methods of eliciting or interpreting feedback from the client. It also could play out in defensiveness or a defense mechanism. It's also seen as the degree to which an organism can defend itself against disease-causing microorganisms, so a type of immunity. It also the degree to which disease-causing microorganisms can withstand the action of drugs, so resistance to medication. I've also found quite a number of explanations across various dictionaries for what resistance means. And, they range from the act of fighting against something that is attacking you or refusing to accept something. There's another definition that says that it's a force that stops the progress of something or makes it slower. There's also a definition that says the degree to which a substance prevents the flow of electric current through it. The resistance can also, and the concept of the resistance is an organization that secretly fights against an enemy that has taken control of its country. Resistance is also a situation in which people or organizations fight against something or refuse to accept or be changed by something. So for me, simply put, resistance feels like it can be fueled by an energy of opposition or a lack of acceptance or a lack of openness, or it could even have a general immunity attached to it, or it could be some type of defensiveness. And so I feel like we've probably all encountered some form of resistance across the span of our lives. And that sometimes it actually presents itself in a very subtle way, specifically on our healing journey. And so it's quite useful to be aware of some of its forms. So because it's It's beneficial to know that. It's beneficial to have that in your awareness. It's also beneficial to have the understanding of what resistance potentially is. And for me, the sense that I have of resistance is that it creates some type of friction, which again can be very subtle or very forceful depending on the context. And so the primary definition that stands out for me is the refusal to be changed by something, which kind of starts to make it sound and feel like a choice, whether we're conscious of it or not. So it could possibly be something at a subconscious or even unconscious level. But it feels good to kind of just raise it in our awareness and allow that awareness to make our healing journey a lot easier. Because it also doesn't just sit as some type of niggle in the background where we don't necessarily understand or feel resonance when somebody says that we are being resistant or that we have a resistance to something. So it kind of just provides clarity and context specifically within our healing journey. And I think it's, you know, it's just specific to that thing about not knowing what you don't know until you know it. And then once you know it, you can't unknow it. But also, once you know it and you want to do something about it, you actually can. So yeah, it's about awareness. It's about sharing knowledge of what resistance is and what potential forms it can take and how it may or may not show up on your healing journey. And so for me, in my educational journey and in my healing journey, psychological concepts have always interested me. And so one of those concepts is the concept of secondary gain, which simply stated means that sometimes we choose not to heal or are not able to heal because we derive some type of benefit from the existence of an emotion or a condition or a pattern. And that in healing, we will lose that benefit. We will lose that secondary gain. So for example, somebody might not be able to or not want to heal their fear of failure for the reason that they use it as a motivator to succeed. And that by releasing that fear of failure, they might lose their motivation and drive, as opposed to being open to succeeding or being successful, which is a healthier motivator and is not fear-based. So that person is resistant to healing that fear-based approach because they use it as a motivating factor. Also, and for another example, someone might be resistant to healing their emotional pain because being in pain gets them attention. And they fear that their healing might lose them that attention. And sometimes they're not consciously aware that the pain is staying because it gives them the attention that they are seeking. So it's a very subtle thing sometimes, the concept of resistance, but it's good to understand it in practical terms because it kind of just helps us also to understand how resistance could show up for us and how we could potentially transcend it and overcome it, or even just be aware of it enough so that we are open to healing the resistance in and of itself. And so the thing that stands out about the impact of resistance is that it gets in the way of our healing. And it could make our healing journey a lot slower. Or it could make our healing process a lot slower. It could also make it ineffective for the reason that that component is not being released. So as opposed to healing the layers as they come up and as they present themselves, we might get stuck in a repetitive loop that starts to feel like a never-ending story. It kind of feels like the journey in and of itself becomes heavier than is required, and therefore a lot less healthy than is required. So resistance has the potential to create stagnancy and stuckness. It also makes the journey a lot less fun because we don't actually feel better. And sometimes because of it, we're not allowing ourselves to feel better, which to me is quite counterintuitive. But saying counterintuitive and counterproductive are two concepts that, yes, are in opposition. Like, you know, something being counterproductive really just means that it's not producing anything and it's not useful to our productiveness, or it's not useful to progress. But at the same time, it's also important to realize that resistance can be very subtle. And it does require sometimes very gentle work and sometimes a little bit more pushing, but it also requires awareness. Like, we need to understand how resistance actually shows up in and of itself, and what that could mean for us, and how that could play out for us, and what that gets in the way of, and why it's important to always feel into that place where there could be a resistance, to see if it is actually there. Because it may not be there, but it also may be so subtle that it requires a little bit more effort and a little bit more work to actually unpack. The other thing about resistance is that it actually impacts our overall well-being, because we actually don't feel like we're progressing. And so we feel ineffective. We feel like we may not be doing what we need to be doing, or that we're not doing it effectively, or that the healing is not working. So yeah, it actually does impact on our well-being in those kind of ways. And so evidence of progress is generally felt firstly on the inside by feeling better. And then it's also seen on the outside, because as we recalibrate, our reality shifts. And it's something that Jeff and Shaleia speak to often, that our vibrational set point shifts. So as we purify our consciousness, we raise our vibration. And as we raise our vibration, we do the work to maintain that vibration and continue to raise it. And so resistance doesn't allow us to comfortably and peacefully do that. And it doesn't allow us to comfortably and peacefully shift into our new vibration. And so where there is a resistance, the work feels harder and more. And so I feel like it's just, I'm reiterating it for the reason that sometimes, you know, like I've come across people that believe that resistance is actually something that they're actively doing. And sometimes they may not be aware that they're doing it. But sometimes you also, as a person going through your healing journey, encounter resistance, and sometimes it actually feels like a little bit of a wall. It feels like not being able to move forward. And so, yeah, I've encountered it in that way. And as opposed to kind of fighting the resistance, because that just fuels it a little bit more, it's kind of one of the things that I've learned to do is to actually lean into it. And it's not about leaning into it and allowing it to take up residence. It's kind of about leaning into it to realize that it's there. So not fighting it, but letting it be there, but also not pushing myself to overcome it and get over it and all those other things that we keep on telling ourselves. It's kind of let it be there. Let it be in your awareness. Don't resist the concept that resistance could exist. And so as you lean into it, the energy shifts and the forcefulness shifts because there isn't a grind, there isn't that friction. And another thing that has kind of helped me in overcoming resistance as well has been to learn to be open to seeing things differently. Learn to be open to seeing possibilities. Because in seeing possibilities, I am not fixated on one way or the other. And so in my healing journey, I'm not fixated with an upset being one thing only. It could be something else. It could also be that the upset is smaller than I think it is. Sometimes it may be bigger than I think it is. But I kind of need to be open to seeing it. I need to be open to seeing it differently. I need to be open to looking in the first place. And another thing that has worked for me in overcoming resistance is to unpack what it's pointing me to by asking myself questions. And some of the questions I ask myself is, well, what is this telling me? What is this showing me? And importantly, and probably equally importantly, is what is it bringing up for me? So in terms of feelings, in terms of memories, in terms of just my ability to deal with it. And it's not complicated to ask yourself those questions for the reason that we've grown to be able to explore and be curious about things. And so a healthy level of curiosity is probably a good way to overcome resistance. And then finally, also being willing to look at the answers and heal where healing is required. So it's no good looking and finding the thing and ignoring the thing. It's much healthier to look, to find the thing, to pull it apart a little bit, and to go into those places where healing is required, and just to do that progressively all the time. And so while resistance might be a foreign and heavy concept, it's also could be a light concept. It's also a concept that allows us to just sit back and to look into things and to not be hard on ourselves for where resistance exists, but also to be open to healing the resistance just the way we're open to healing the upsets, the way we're open to taking on our healing pieces of work. And so I feel like it's been a concept that has kind of piqued my interest quite a bit. And the reason is that it plays out in so many ways. And it's sometimes so subtle. And it's sometimes so context-based. So yeah, I hope that sheds some light on resistance, that the impact of resistance, and also potentially ways of overcoming resistance so that your healing journey just starts to become lighter and easier and just a little bit more fun. And now, I'd like to invite you to join me in our closing prayer. Father, I accept your word into my heart. I will honor your will in my life and will follow you without hesitation anywhere you ask. I know you guide me into your heart where I belong. I accept that you are everywhere and your teaching is in all things. God, I know you provide me clarity in this teaching of union, that I may be forever in union with you. I accept that you are in me as you are in my brother. I will not deny my brother your word, and will share your teaching with him in any way you ask, and only as you ask. But when I share my salvation with him, I fully claim my salvation and return to you with him. In Christ's name, Amen. Speaking this prayer in your heart means that you have accepted that you are on the path of awakening to your true divine nature. This is what it means to be a unionist. Follow the teachings of union with God wherever you find them, and purify your consciousness into perfect union with your Creator. And now please join us for our 3 closing Oms. Please feel free to say them out loud or in your heart. Thank you again for joining us. See you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us in today's sermon. I hope, or we hope, that you enjoyed it too. And yeah, we'd like to share kind of like the last takeaways from it and invite you to reflect on the content that Granville has shared with us in regards to these pockets of resistance along our journey. And yeah, just how to make it easy to move through them and allow the healing that we've been calling in to actually like integrate and take place and allow us to expand into more love in our lives. And something that I was picking, like, it's not that I'm picking up, it's a question that actually came up while I was watching the sermon, and it was, how do we feel in the presence of love? Because this is where the resistance tends to play its part. And we've seen this process explained by Jeff and Shaleia many times. Like, we tend to resist the thing that we actually called in, as ironic as that seems. And when I was listening to Granville's sermon, I was like, like whenever I find that resistance, it means that he was explaining very logically how resistance is kind of like being in opposition to something or someone. And so I was like, okay, how do I perceive myself in the presence of love? Do I perceive myself in kind of like being in opposition to love? And therefore there comes the resistance. So I found it very interesting question to kind of like ask myself and see what my perception was in that space. Because I realized that a lot of times I resist love because of how I feel when I am in the presence of love. And since love uses everything as a mirror, I have this still, like, for that's my experience of what I'm currently moving through, is like being feeling safer in the presence of love, and realizing that I don't have to hide, I don't need to run away, it's okay, I can be myself. So yeah, basically that's kind of like a question that I ask myself while listening to the sermon, and I found it very interesting to invite everyone watching to kind of like ask ourselves that. So how do we feel in that space? And I feel like that will make it way easier to identify why we are being resistant, and like you were saying at the very beginning, make
And
that
find
choice.
find your own way, so that it is your own way, how it can be easy for you.
Exactly. But once you realize why you are having that resistance, it's extremely easy to make a different choice there, and kind of like let
Because
it go.
you know, okay, I know why now, and so I'm just able to let go and make the choice to again, every time when it comes up, to let go of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful when you let
this is
go of
wonderful.
resistance.
It's been always amazing.
Yeah, it was a wonderful sermon. I loved
wonderful.
it. Like,
Yeah, me
I
too.
love how Granville
Yeah.
represents the topics.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and we also would like to invite you to visit the website of unionism.org. There you can go deeper into the in unionism, and get more deeper into the teaching of unionism. Please join our after church tea time on our Facebook group, and as we are on YouTube, subscribe to our channel that you don't miss any further Sunday services. Stay safe, and we see you in the next Sunday service.